other side of this hatch that we're looking at right now. And they are NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy and Russian cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner. He's there on the right, Ivanishin in the center, the Soyuz commander, and on the right, or on the left, NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy. And in just a couple of minutes, they're going to be joining the Expedition 62 crew on board the station with two NASA astronauts, Jessica Meir and Andrew Morgan, and Oleg Skropochka. They've all been on board for different times. Drew Morgan's actually been on board for about 263 days. And then Christina and Oleg have been on board for just over 197 days. They're scheduled to remain on board the station for about another week, and then they'll be coming home. And then the crew that just arrived today will be the only ones on board until we get another human space flight launch. The next one on our schedule is going to be that Demo 2 flight, currently targeted for mid to late May. And that'll be bringing Bob Benkin and Doug Hurley up to the station. But for now, we are standing by for this hatch opening. You're getting to look inside of the Poisk module, and you're going to see Oleg Skropochka, the current station commander, floating into view. He's just there at the bottom. He's been setting up the camera and getting the hatch ready on the station side. There are two hatches that we'll see open. First, we'll see him open the station hatch, and that'll actually reveal the very top of the Soyuz spacecraft, where we were looking at it in the vacuum of space just a few hours ago. The docking probe and the other antennas located around it. It's currently attached. The docking probe has been retracted. And then once these leak checks are complete, we'll be able to get these hatches open and the crew on board.
Copy 732. This is the ISS pressure. All right, step 10.9.3, RPV 1, airflow regulator 1 is closed. Vanya, Ivan, could you please send S5 command? Yes, please send S5 command, and then in 1 minute send S6 command. S5 issued at 19:04:45, and I confirm that LED is illuminated.
Our visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control Houston, Tom Erkenswick, today is leading the team of flight controllers, both a support team here in Houston and over in Moscow, getting data and feedback from the Russian flight control team and feeding that to the flight controllers here in Houston in Ficker 1. Just hearing that the leak checks have been completed. Now they're beginning the pressure equalization step. So you need to make sure that you have equal pressure on both the station and the Soyuz hatch sides, and then also in that vestibule, that space in between. And then once those pressures are equal or within a tolerable range of being equal, they'll be able to actually get these hatches open. So leak checks in the rear view, equalization on board now, and following that will be hatch opening.
Open, KKC, no stop. Stand by. Okay, copy. Standing by. All right, so stand by for ISS hatch opening. All right, standing by.
And again, the first hatch we expect to be open will be on the station side. There are two hatches, one on the station, one on the Soyuz. Oleg Skropochka there in the Poisk module will first open up the station side hatch. Looks like he's getting into position to start that maneuver now. And then after they finalize the pressurization equalization between the Soyuz and the station, they'll be able to open up the Soyuz hatch. In the time since they've docked, in addition to doing all of these leak checks, the crew able to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits that they've been wearing since suiting up prior to their launch. And there we see the station side hatch is open. And looking at the very top of the orbital module on the Soyuz now.
Irkut, this is Moscow. You go to proceed with step 10.9.3, the actions that are in the box. Okay, copy all, opening KKT and KVD valves. Yes, go ahead and open KKT valve and KVD as well. Okay, so we're going to repress the ISS with the air. Irkut, did you open KKT and KVD valves?
And having a quick handover, so a quick transition in our audio, video, and telemetry reception with the station as we hand over between the tracking and data relay satellites that deliver all of that data from the station back down to us on the ground. You're getting split box views of the Russian Mission Control Center in Koryov just outside of Moscow. They've been overseeing all of the operations from the Soyuz MS-16 vehicle today from launch all the way through this docking and now hatch opening. On the right, a look inside of Fikr 1. The Orbit 2 team still on console. They've been on board since a couple of hours before the actual docking, overseeing all the final preparations of the station. Again, Flight Director Pooja Jazvrani leading the team this morning.
Please be ready to note it down, and I will tell you what the recommendation is. Okay, ready to copy now. Ready to copy? Yes. So first of all, you will have to deactivate the Soyuz. This is orbital flight ODF, page 25-38, step 4. Orbital flight 25 through 28, step 4, yes, that's affirmative. Second item, do not deactivate the gas analyzer. Orbital flight ODF, page 36, step 4.5 is not to be executed. Orbital flight, page 36, step 4.5 is not to be executed, and gas analyzer is not to be deactivated. That's correct. Next item, you will have to change out the cartridge in the sub, page 35, 4.3. So you're supposed to switch pair 1 with pair 3. Page 35, step 4.3. And what's next? So replace pair 1 with pair 3. Is that correct? Yes. Affirmative.
So while the crew inside the Soyuz continues to step through these final equalization procedures, let's take a couple of moments. You guys have been sending in questions on Twitter using that hashtag AskNASA ever since our launch this morning. We'll try and burn through a couple here real quick. Our first one comes from My Miria, My Vet, who wanted to know what will be the first task upon boarding the International Space Station. Well, first task on board will be to just greet their crew members, and they'll gather in the Russian service module and exchange a couple of words with the teams on the ground, both in Moscow and in Houston. And then actually the first scheduled task for all of these crew members will be a midday meal. It's been several hours since the crew on the Soyuz ate prior to getting suited up and leaving on their trip into space. And then for the crew already on board the station, it's right at midday meal time for their normal sleep schedule, so they'll all share that together. And then it'll actually move into what's known as a safety briefing. So it's customary that the International Space Station commander gives all newly arrived crews a safety briefing that typically lasts about 45 minutes, where they just do a refresher on all the particulars of reacting to an emergency on board station, where your routes are to your Soyuz spacecraft, where all the emergency equipment is, and just walking through it with all of the crew members.
Could you please?
Next question comes from Sid, who wanted to know, is this going to be the last usage of the Soyuz for space station travel? A number of you sending in questions asking if this is the last time we'll have American astronauts on a Soyuz, or will we only be flying on the new commercial spacecraft from SpaceX and Boeing? And the answer is no. This will not be the last usage. The intention is to continue to fly Americans on the Soyuz, and then also to fly Russians on the commercial crew vehicles coming online as part of our commercial crew program. We always want to maintain a U.S. and a Russian presence on board the station, as those nations are the ones most most well trained and most in tune with the various systems on the different segments. And so in order to keep that mixed crew, we're going to have to fly mixed crews on these different vehicles. So we fully intend to continue flying Americans on Soyuz and to eventually fly Russians on the U.S. commercial crew vehicles. And then a lot of people sending in the very pertinent questions about any risks of the crew spreading COVID-19 to the International Space Station, or what we've done to protect them. And the answer is we really have a very robust health stabilization program, is what it's referred to. So it's essentially a very strict quarantine for these crew members in the weeks leading up to their International Space Station flights. A couple of typical pre-launch activities were either scaled back or changed, largely ceremonial in nature, things like media briefings or visits to Red Square. But their quarantine procedures didn't really get that much of a change. The amount of individuals in the general area around the crew was scaled back. We saw with all of the rollout video of the crew leaving the hotel, there was a much smaller footprint of individuals down there in Baikonur, just due to all of the current travel restrictions. But we do have this stabilization plan already in place that requires a quarantine for these crew members, just even in normal times, to prevent them from bringing any bugs, viruses, things like that up to the space station with them, potentially getting their other crewmates sick, as they're essentially living in this closed environment. And so thanks to already having a lot of those robust procedures in place, we're very confident that we're able to launch these crew members safe and healthy and ready for their 6-month stays on board the International Space Station.
So, there are certain actions that are...
Altered Miscellany wanted to know how often they get to talk to their families. Pretty regularly, and then they'll have regularly scheduled video conferences with friends and family down here on the ground, using a lot of different communication tools that would be very familiar to you or I down here on planet Earth, essentially using video calling and even voice over IP, very similar to what we get, and it ends up functioning just like calling somebody on a cell phone. So they're able to get that on board the International Space Station. They also have access to email, so they're able to regularly send and receive messages from family on the ground, and they can do that every single day. Our next one comes from Alex. He wanted to know, how good is the internet on the International Space Station? The internet is serviced like all of the data transfer from the station by our tracking and data relay satellites. It's a constellation in orbit around the Earth. that they're able to use to send data, send video, like we're getting right now, also send voice communications, but also use the internet. The astronauts able to browse the web on board. And the station right now, thanks to upgrades in 2019, supports a 600 megabit per second connection. So it's getting more common to have gigabit connections down here on planet Earth, so not quite that fast, but considering they're orbiting about 250 statute miles over planet Earth, it's definitely fast enough. And that's handling all of the video coming down from station, all of the science data, all of the files being uplinked to the crew. So
here for now, and we'll figure it out later.
600 megabits. Our next question comes from Claire C. Wanted to know why the backup crew are being used. That is because one of the crew members that was originally slated to fly encountered a medical issue in some of the final stages of training. And since these crew members were getting some special training, as when Andrew Morgan and Jessica Meir leave, along with Oleg Skropochka, we'll only have one USOS crew member. That's Chris Cassidy. US stands for the U.S. Operating Segment. It's really the half of the International Space Station that has the U.S.-sponsored modules, along with some from our international partners. And for certain things like spacewalks, which we have different systems, different suits, different procedures on the U.S. side and the Russian side. So the Russian crew members getting some special training in those procedures. In particular, one of the crew members in each the prime and the backup crew getting that training. And since these backup crews are essentially a pair, when one crew member had a medical issue, they had to swap out both. And so that's why the backup crew was used on this flight. But as we heard, pre-launch, Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner training just alongside with the prime crew for this over the last 2 years, so they were very well prepared and ready to support their stay on board the station.
Copy, thank you, 736.
And we haven't forgot about hatch opening. Again, they're still working through this pressure equalization. It can take a couple of minutes, so we're just going to continue to stand by. We should be seeing that Soyuz hatch open in just a little bit. And then we'll see Chris Cassidy, Anatoly Ivanishin, and Ivan Wagner make their way into the International Space Station. But for now, back to Twitter. Got some more Ask NASA questions. Tom Dang wanted to know what the grid fin on the fairing of the Soyuz launch vehicle does. Good eye and good question. If you do remember that Soyuz, there are grid fins. They're basically large structures on the launch shroud area. So the very top of the rocket has a large white area with the launch escape tower on top, and then a shroud that protects the Soyuz during that ride uphill. And there are 4 grid fins that are attached to the side. Those are stabilizers, so in the event of what's known as a phase 1 abort, so using that prime abort tower on top, and the solid rocket motors on the fairing itself. Those stabilizers are deployed in order to basically be attitude control, a stabilizer to ensure the vehicle doesn't go into a roll and is able to ensure a good pitch.
Okay, copy. That's great. And we're standing by for the pressure drop to stop at the 2-minute interval. This is page 80. Well, it's not really dropping, it's just decreasing. Well, okay, copy. Let's stand by for it to stop decreasing then. Because when you say the pressure is dropping, it just sounds too scary. Copy. We'll take that into the account for future. And if I understand it correctly, we're supposed to exit, we're going to have a PO event, and then after the video conference, we will do the deactivation steps. Is that correct? That's affirmative. But After the event, you will have to get back to the Soyuz and deactivate com assets per page 82 and install the cap, etc. We have already discussed it with you. This is page 82 in your ODF. Okay, so we will exit everyone, and then we're getting back to the vehicle, to the Soyuz, complete all the actions per page 82, and then switch to ascent steps. Yes, that's correct. All right. Copy. So guys, we're going to say goodbye at this point. Thank you very much for all your work today. Anatoly, how do you read me? Yes, I can read you now. So I just wanted to thank you for all the work you did today, and I'd like to wish you a successful flight. Thank you for your words, and also thank you for your support. Have a great day. All the best to you. Thank you, and my best regards to you as well. МКС, hardline con. Yes, Moscow, I'm signing off and deactivating Soyuz.com assets. Goodbye now. Goodbye.
This is Mission Control Houston. Another quick handover. Should be getting that video signal back with the station momentarily. We are going to stand by for just a few more minutes. We are still looking to see if we're going to get some words from the newly arrived crew, and hopefully some congratulations from here in Houston. So continue to hang with us. Big event though, hatch open, and we're starting to see our crew members inside of the Zvezda service module, right there in the front on the left. Quick reflexes, Chris Cassidy.
МКС вступ по Москве, ВСГ-1. Как слышно, вступ Москвы.
Please to ground 1, how do you read us?
МКС вступ по Москве.
ISS, Mission Control Moscow, space to ground 1.
Ну, поздравляем.
Congratulations
Прибывший экипаж с прибытием на станцию.
on arriving to the station.
Видим вас, картинка.
We can see you guys. This is a good picture.
Толя где-то затерялся только.
Anatoly is not somewhere. He was sent to the vehicle to deactivate something.
And right there, our first view of all three of the newest crew members of Expedition 62 on board the International Space Station.
Mission Control SS. Space to Ground 1, we are ready. We can see you as well. We are ready as well. Mission Control Moscow. Good day to you. Good day to you. What can we say? We are very happy that Soyuz 63 arrived here with no issues. And I understand this is we are self-isolated here on the station. We are ready for handing over, and after that we are going to leave the station in the good hands. We are very happy that we have arrived to the station. Just a month ago, it was unexpected for us. We didn't know we are going to be here. We started preparing, we were training, and everything worked out well. We are here. The vehicle performed excellently. The station is great. We can only confirm again that the technology is operating well. We are happy to be here on the station. We are not going to spend much time with them, but this is going to be a great time. Good day to you. Congratulations. Wish you to perform and complete the program. Perform well. Thank you. Thank you.
ЦУПу Хьюстона передаю тогда слово.
So, a word to Mission Control Houston.
Houston, this is Station. Hello, how are you doing?
Station Houston, we just wanted to say congratulations to the entire crew and the teams on the ground that made this all possible. Chris and Anatoly, congrats on your third successful arrival at the International Space Station, and a special congrats to Ivan on his first. For Chris, it was a stunning launch and docking, and while we wish we had everyone to see you off from Baikonur, we know your family and friends and your NASA family were watching the whole way and couldn't be more proud. You were the 500th human in space, former chief astronaut, upcoming space station commander, and when Drew and Jessica leave in a week, our lone man on the U.S. segment. There's nobody better for the job, and the flight control team can't wait to get to work with you. Welcome aboard.
Hey, Jessica, thanks a lot. It really means a lot to be back here and representing all of the Johnson Space Center and all of NASA, really, to get this mission going. It's going to be a really exciting year in our manned space history for all the obvious reasons, and we hope to start that off at some point by welcoming Bob and Doug. But for today's purposes, the launch was great. As Anatoly said, the spaceship worked beautifully, and we're just really happy to get here. Thanks for kind words, Jessica.
Those are good words, Chris. Thanks so much.
Так, экипаж МКС, как слышно, это...
ISS crew, this is SRP Alexei Buchilin. How do you read me? Congratulations to you.
Поздравляю весь экипаж, что собрались вместе.
Finally, the crew is together. Alex, the crew is here. They waited for you. They're finally here.
Потому что ты воспитанник нашего отдела.
And you are from our department. We are very happy to have you there. We wish you have great time there and perform the program as scheduled for you. Wish you all the best and all the luck. And congratulations one more time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ребята, это Соловьев.
This is Solovьев. I congratulate you from the bottom of my heart.
Вот завтра
Alex,
Наталья Сергеевна,
tomorrow,
дочери Сергея Павловича Королева, юбилей.
Natalia Korolova, daughter of Sergei Korolov, has a birthday. It would be great if you say a few words on her birthday, and we're gonna let them know, okay, for her birthday. Will you? Yes, of course. Our whole crew, 62, and the new crew from 63, from the bottom of our hearts, happy birthday. Natalia is a great scientist and a great physician, has done a lot for cosmonautics, for reaching out. And we wish you, Natalia, long years, success and everything from the whole crew of us. Happy birthday to you.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
МКС.
ISS Michigan from Moscow, space to ground 1.
Заканчиваем тогда.
So we will wrap up this beautiful event.
Располагайтесь.
And make yourself comfortable.
Дальше пора.
Have a good meal together. Bon appetit. Thank you.
All right, well, with that event completed, we are now back at 6 human beings living and working on board the International Space Station. They'll be at full strength for about a week before it's time for 3 of those crew members to return home. Just recapping a couple of our major milestones with today. The crew launched successfully from the Baikonur Cosmodrome at 3:05 p.m. a.m. Central Time, 4:05 a.m. Eastern, 8:05 GMT. They were able to dock just a little over 6 hours later at 9:13 a.m. Central, 10:13 a.m. Eastern, 14:13 GMT. And those hatches were just thrown open a little under 20 minutes ago at 11:28 a.m. Central, 12:28 p.m. Eastern, 16:28 GMT. Bringing a start to Chris Cassidy, Anatoly Ivanishin, and Ivan Wagner's time on board the International Space Station. But again, they're only going to be on board with their other 3 crewmates for about a week, and then it's going to be time for Drew Morgan, Jessica Meir, and Oleg Skropochka to come home. And we're going to be bringing you live coverage of all of that activity as it unfolds on Thursday, April 16th. We'll actually start off that day with farewell and hatch closure coverage. That'll be at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and then eventually moving into that undocking coverage where we'll see them undock from the International Space Station to begin their journey home. And that'll conclude with our deorbit burn and landing coverage in the late night, 11 p.m. Central, midnight Eastern. So be sure to tune in to NASA TV and at nasa.gov/live and follow us on all of our social media accounts to get updates on the mission as they come through. One final time, some of our upcoming coverage for the rest of the day. We'll have a video file recapping all of the docking and hatch opening events that you just watched unfold live, coming up later at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern on NASA TV. And as we close, we would just like to thank everyone that tuned in today to watch 3 humans launch from planet Earth to their new home for the next 6 months in space. Human spaceflight is a venture that's only possible when a lot of people work together to do the things that are hard